عليه. احنا بس بنتفرج.
No. Sheikh, Brother Rashid wants that too.
اه.
I think like 250. Don't quote me on that.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وينفعنا ما علمتنا وزدنا علما. ربنا زدنا علما. ربنا زدنا علما. ربنا زدنا علما. Okay, today inshallah we're going to start, because we did not have our tafsir yesterday, inshallah we're going to start with looking at the 29th juz and some of the verses in the 29th juz, inshallah ta'ala. First verse is the Surah Mulk, which begins the 29th juz. And the reason why this surah is good to begin with is because this surah begins with a verse. This surah begins with a verse which very, very clearly lays out the purpose of why we're here and what we should be doing while we're here. The verse begins, Surah Mulk, Tabarak alladhi, blessed be he, the one, biyadihi al-mulk, in whose hand lies the dominion, ownership of everything. Wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir, and he is upon everything, has power to do everything. One of the names of Allah is Qadir. One of the names of Allah is Qadir. And Al-Qadir is the one that has the power to do anything. Hence, there's no impossibility for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything is possible. And everything is in the capacity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. Alladhi khalaqa al-mawta wal-hayat. Beautiful verse. Alladhi, it is He, the one who created maut, death, wal-hayat, and life. So here are two things to point. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from here He shows that He created death. That death is a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not just the absence of life. No, maut is a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And hayat, both of these things, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created them. Maut is a creation of Allah. لِيَبَلُوَكُمْ, in order to test you. That's the whole purpose. أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. Ayyukum, which of you is the best, most excellent indeed. Now here, a few things we can point out. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't say أَكْثَرُ عَمَلًا. Ayyukum أَكْثَرُ عَمَلًا. Allah didn't say which of you has more good deeds. See, insan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us قُلْ لَا يَسْتَوِي الطَّيِّبُ وَالْخَبِيثُ الْخَبِيثُ وَالطَّيِّبُ وَلَوْ أَعْجَبَكَ كَثْرَةُ الْخَبِيثِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in another surah that say the khabith and the tayyib. Khabith, that which is spoiled, that which is corrupted, is not equal to the tayyib. It's not equal. And then Allah says, وَلَوْ أَعْجَبَكَ كَثْرَةُ الْخَبِيثِ. Even though when there's a lot of khabith, you like it sometimes. So sometimes when we see a lot of wrongness in one area, it looks nice. It looks good. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that the reality is to look at what it is in itself and realize that what khabith is. So khabith actually just means something bad, something foul, something corrupt. And sometimes when we as human beings being weak, when we see a lot of it together, we become influenced by it and like it. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying they're not the same. They're not the same. But here in this verse, Allah doesn't say أَكْثَرُ عَمَلًا, that He wants to test which of us does more actions. No, because Allah does not look at how much you do. Allah does not look at how much you do, but rather what is done with quality. So it's not quantitative value, we're looking at qualitative value in whatever we're doing. And that's the gist of many of the teaching of the Prophet ﷺ, that 2 rakats 2 rakats with focus is better than hundreds of rakats without focus and trust and ikhlas and devotion. So we focus on, we want more, because that's how we are. We want more, we want more, we want more. Whatever we have, we want another one of it. Whatever it is. It's a car, a wife, a job, whatever. We want more, we want more. We're not looking at quality. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is looking at quality. He's teaching us that it's quality that we should be looking after, not in the actions now. So the actions that we present to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we need to judge those actions, that how much ihsan, how beautiful is the action that I'm presenting to Allah, not how many of them I'm doing. So that's something here that he's pointing out. But again, the point, the purpose of the life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pointing out here, the whole purpose of you being here is who can come out with the best good deeds at the end of being here. وَهُوَ الْعَزِيزُ الْغَفُورُ. He is almighty, all forgiving. This verse, why is it so important? Again, it teaches you right from the beginning, it's the purpose of life. Why are we here? Allah's going to see who's going to do the best deeds. Beautiful verse to contemplate on and to think about that. Okay, let's look at another verse. In this same surah, verse number 10, same surah.
Sit down.
Please don't give me dirty. Okay. All right. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about a lot in the Quran, the things that people in the hereafter will say. So for example, Allah talks about the argument that takes place between those who followed people and the leaders who led them astray. The argument, the conversation that takes place between them in the hereafter. And then Allah talks about a conversation between Ashabul Jannah, وَنَادَى أَصْحَابُ النَّارِ أَصْحَابُ الْجَنَّةِ. When the people of fire will call out to the people of Jannah, and أَفِيضُ عَلَيْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ, oh, give us some of that water you have. Let's say, قَالُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ حَرَّمَهَا. Allah has made it haram, we can't give it to you. Or where Allah talks about the people of Jahannam will call out to the angel who's in charge of Jahannam. They'll call out to him and they'll speak to him. And he'll reply. So Allah speaks and tells us a lot about the conversation that will take place in the hereafter. And here is one of them. And he describes that. And it's very interesting because you can see almost retrospectively, because hindsight is 20/20. That's the same. Hindsight is 20/20 vision. Looking back, you can always say, I should have did this. So by Allah telling us in the Quran, but no. By Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling us in the Quran, one second. By Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling us in the Quran what the people of paradise and what the people of Jahannam will be saying, we almost have a way to use that as their hindsight and correct our lives now. So much of the conversation Allah speaks about. So here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talking about the people of Jahannam, when they are cast into it, إِذَا أُلْقُوا فِيهَا سَمِعُوا لَهَا, they will hear it شَهِيقًا وَهِيَ تَفُورُ. They will hear it, it's the sound. We've heard fire before, but I don't know if you ever heard a very large fire. Fire actually has a sound to it. And if you hear it in abundance, in like forest fires or things like that, people always talk about the sound they heard of that fire, not just like your stove, but a very large fire. So Allah talks about that the roar of Jahannam when they are placed inside of Jahannam. تَكَادُ تَمَيَّزُ مِنَ الْغَيْظِ. It's as if the fire will burst out of rage. Like Allah is describing this fire as if it's going to explode out of rage. كُلَّمَا أُلْقِيَ فِيهَا. Every time a group is placed in there, فَوْجٌ سَأَلَهُمْ خَزَنَتُهَا. The inspectors of hell, or the gatekeepers of hell, will say, أَلَمْ يَأْتِكُمْ نَذِيرٌ. Didn't somebody come to you and tell you? Didn't a warner come to you? Didn't someone come to you and speak to you? So every time a group comes in, they'll all be asked, did a warner come to you? And all of them will say, the next verse says, قَالُوا بَلَا. They'll say, Bala, yes, a warner came to us. قَدْ جَاءَنَا نَذِيرٌ فَكَذَّبَنَا. But we denied him. وَقُلْنَا. And we said, مَا نَزَلَ اللَّهُ. مَا نَزَلَ اللَّهُ مِن شَيْءٍ. Allah did not send down anything. إِنْ أَنْتُمْ إِلَّا فِي ضَلَالٍ كَبِيرٍ. You're just misguided. You're making all this up, Muhammad. You're just making all this up. So now, in hindsight, what are they saying? They're saying, in Jahannam, they're saying, yeah, a warner came to us, a nadir came to us, but every time كُلَّمَا جَاءَ نَذِيرٌ, we denied the warner. And we said, you're not true. You're just making all this up. Now look what they will say. And this is the main verse I wanted to share. وَقَالُوا لَوْ كُنَّا نَسْمَعُ. They will say, لَوْ كُنَّا نَسْمَعُ أَوْ نَعْقِلُ. They will say, only if we listened. Nasma, sunnah, listen. أَوْ نَعْقِلُ. What's aql? Intelligence. So they will say, only if we listened or were intelligent. مَا كُنَّا فِي أَصْحَابِ السَّعِيرِ. We would not be the companions of this blaze. Two things. Beautiful verse. See? The Prophet ﷺ said when a non-Muslim or a munafiq, the angels come and they ask him the questions. Who is this deen? What is this deen? Who is this prophet? Who is Allah? They will say, La nadri, la nadri. We don't know. We don't know. And the angels will say, Ma darayta wa la talayta. Ma darayta wa la talayta. You didn't study, nor did you follow me. What does this verse say here? لو كنا نسمع. Only if we would have listened. أو نعقل. Or studied or learned. See, some people are intelligent. They can on their own come to this understanding of what there's life has to be some purpose to it. They come to these conclusions on their own because their intelligence is always bugging them. What are we here for? What are we here for? But other people need to be told and need to follow someone that they hear tell them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, they're saying about themselves, we neither followed and listened to this prophet, listened to the Quran, we neither listened nor did we use our own brain. We weren't thinking. We were just going through the life. So two qualities. That either you're going to listen, be a listener, be a student, learn, or not good. You're a very smart person. You use your aql to come to that conclusion. But these people did neither. They just busied themselves with hayat dunya, just with the dunya. They didn't listen, nor did they use their aql. So two qualities which these people are praising, they should have had in the world. Number one is listening. The quality of listening. The quality of listening. Okay. وَقَالُوا لَوْ كُنَّا نَسْمَعُ أَوْ نَعْقِلُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this verse talks about this quality of nasma, to listen, to listen, to listen. And subhanAllah, some of the scholars say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you one mouth and two ears. To highlight, you need to listen twice as much as you speak. Listening, learning, and listening. And that is two primary ways of learning. Are to listen, oral transmission, or written word. Written word. Now, what are the first two surahs revealed? What's the first surah? Iqra. Iqra means to read. Do anyone know the second surah revealed?
Good question.
Noon wal qalami. Noon, I swear by the pen. Like, learning is a part of our tradition. And it's a deep part of our tradition. It's a very deep part of our tradition. So, and learning, why am I bringing up learning now? Because sama is one of the primary ways of gaining information. A sima. And in fact, now you guys, we won't relate to it, but when you learn hadith, it's called sima of hadith because you heard it from someone. The Sahaba heard it from the Prophet. It wasn't written down. They heard it from him. And this sima kept going until we have a long chain of people who heard these transmissions from these narrations from the Prophet ﷺ coming down. But the point is now, if you go to class and see school, half the time the teacher can't get everyone to listen and be quiet. Because listening now is an art. Listen, this is important. When you want to communicate, you have to make sure there's no noise. When I mean by noise, I don't mean physical noise, right? That is one problem. But there's also things that stop a person from learning and hearing a message, internal noise. And this is studied, meaning if your mind is not clear right now, if right now you're hungry, you can't listen to me right now. If right now you think I don't know what I'm talking about, you can't listen to anything I'm saying. If right now your mind is somewhere else, you can't. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Qaf that those who listen, وَهُوَ شَهِيدٌ. Those who listen and they're present. What does that mean? Because sometimes we've sat in class and sat in a lecture and you hear everything, but you're not paying attention. You heard it, but you weren't listening. We say that to our children. You hear me, right? Why aren't you listening? So what does listen actually mean? When we tell our children, why aren't you listening to me? We know they heard us, but they're not actually implementing what we're saying. So you're not listening to me. So again, this quality of sima, nasma, is something which Allah speaks a lot about. And it's a quality of learning. And nowadays it's something which is actually lost in people. The quality of just listening to someone and not talking over them and not cutting them off, but actually just being a good listener. Now, to spend a little more on this and we'll go forward, the Prophet ﷺ was the best of listeners. That was a documented quality he had with anyone in his community and everyone in his community, that he was a good listener to people. He was a good listener to people. And this is a quality that we as believers have to kind of bring into ourselves. And look at what they're saying. لَوْ كُنَّا نَسْمَعُ أَوْ نَعْقِلُ. Only if we listened. But we don't listen. We don't listen. We come to Jummah with 1,000 things on our mind and we're not listening. We're not listening. So, or we come assuming we know already. That is one of the most detrimental and one of the biggest things that create noise. When you sit down to learn something, you're assuming I already know. You won't learn anything. Because the glass has to be empty to get something inside of it. Right? So every time a Sahaba would sit down in front of the Prophet, there was this clearing. Now, the funny thing is they teach critical thinking to youth now. At a very young age, they teach critical thinking. Now, critical thinking makes one analytical about the information that one is receiving. One analyzes all the information that one is receiving and critiques it. Right? Critiques that information. Now, that's a great quality to have, but can you imagine, just imagine teaching a kid Qaida and he's doing critique of you. You know Alif Ba Ta Tha Jim? Can you imagine teaching someone how to read Quran and they're like, well, why is this like this? You're like, it's just Ba. Like, well, no, why? What's the proof for that? What's the proof? How can I be sure that Ba is Ba and Ba is not Ta? How can I be sure about anything then? Now this goes into something deeper, which I wrote about in a paper called Islamic, the paper is Critical Thinking and Islamic Pedagogy. It's a paper, you can find it on Academic EDU, I did on this topic. And the paper basically says that you can be critical thinker, but in the beginning of learning, there's this blind submission to learning anything. And the blind submission is when I say C-A-T means cat. You can't argue with me. For learning to begin, there's this assumed not knowing, that I don't know anything. Now when prophets were coming with messages, teaching, what was the primary blocker? The arrogance. The arrogance was the primary thing. That this Mulvi doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't know the deen, all he knows is deen. He doesn't know this world. Muhammad, he doesn't know what he's talking about. We would, why not wasn't sent to someone else? The arrogance stopped. So that's the problem, this receptive. You have to be receptive in order to learn anything. The same thing applies to Quran and Sunnah and anything from Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, that you have to be receptive in the beginning to learn anything. After you've received and learned, then comes the stage of critique. If you want to study it more, I've written in detail about it, you could read it, inshallah ta'ala. But the main thing is the ability to learn. The ability to learn and receive and to listen. And this was what the Prophet ﷺ, he learned from Jibreel. He learned from Jibreel how to listen. He learned it, and then he taught the Sahaba how to listen. And when they learned how to listen, then they pass it on to generation until we get to this generation that doesn't want to listen anymore. Because they don't think you can offer them anything to learn. They can learn it from everywhere else. So listening is a quality which is taught, beautiful quality which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praises, and what the people of Jahannam, they will say, and we wish we just listened in the world. We wish we just were listeners. أَوْ نَعْقِلُ مَا كُنَّا فِي أَصْحَابِ السَّعِيرِ. Only if we listened or we used our intellect, we would not be dwellers of the Sa'ir. Now here's something else. Interesting, Yunus, you might like this point. Aql. The aql. If we look at the Sharia, we'll see that the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are ma'qul. They come with the aql. They go in line with the aql. Now, there are certain things which we don't know the reason why, but we do it out of submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no place for aql in those things. Now, is there a rational wisdom why Allah ordained that? For sure. But are we privy to all of those things? Some yes, some not. And this is very important because we put ourselves in a conundrum, right? We trap ourselves in this logical, rational argument. If someone asks you, why 4 rakat? Someone in school, you say, I pray 4 rakat dhuhr. 4. And he asks you why. Can someone give me an aqli reason for that? It's one reason. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered 4, I'm doing 4. Bas, that's it. I don't have a rational reason for that, and I will never have one. Does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have some hikmah, grand hikmah? Well, perhaps. Scholars have written about that. But what we get is, what happens is, we base our religion on our understanding of it. And that's dangerous. That's dangerous. Because our aql isn't able to encompass Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's grand understanding. Just the same way your 10-year-old son can't understand why you won't let him buy a BB gun. Right? He can't understand why you stop him from stuff. His aql just, why? This guy's just being a mean dad. And you're like, no, I understand what you don't understand. So likewise, the same way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there are ma'qul and ghair ma'qul from the Sharia. There are things now that are ma'qul, and Allah speaks about that in the Quran. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks, why is there hijab? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the punishment for sariqah, stealing. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the prohibition of khamr and gambling and all these, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the reason why. But that's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We should be careful not to try to always rationalize all of the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we may put ourselves in a box. And I'll give you an example. There was one scientist who did a lot of work on the Quran, and he was one of those type that kind of focus on the mathematic schema of the Quran, and like everything's a mathematic formula. Like that was what he focused on. So he came up with these amazing hypotheses and work done about the organization of the Quran and the number of letters in each word and the number of words in each surah and then surah numbers and this and everything. But it just happened that one ayah didn't fit inside of his formula. It didn't fit. This one ayah doesn't fit. What did he do? He said, this ayah wasn't in the Quran, someone put it in. Why? Because it doesn't fit my mathematical formula. It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. So no, this must have been added by someone later. 1400 years of Muslims have agreed that this is the Quran, it's been preserved. We have tawatur, we have change of narration, we have so much. And now, because of your aql, you've just committed an act of kufr because you've denied the Quran. يُؤْمِنُ بِبَعْضُ وَتَكْفُرُ بِبَعْضُ. So my point here is to show that, and this happens a lot when we explain things to non-Muslims and they ask you why, right? So you try to look first for that really, really, really good, rational reason. Don't always do that. Sometimes you just say, because I'm a Muslim and we believe in the Quran. And this is what Allah told us. Bam, move on, next topic. Now, some things Allah has told us, some things the Prophet has told us, the reason behind those, okay, fine. It's not so subjective anymore. It's clear. It's clear. But where we don't know for sure, I'll give you an example. And Hamza, the brother Hamza Zor says he gave a good example, beautiful. Like, oh, why do you wear the hijab? And you're like, oh, out of modesty, right? Out of modesty. So here you got this lady next to you, you're talking to, with no hijab, and she's like, well, I'm modest. I'm not modest because I don't put that on my head. I'm modest. And now you're kind of stuck, like, yeah, you're modest, but I'm more modest. Or you're modest, but you're stuck now here. She's like, well, I'm modest too. You're calling me not modest anymore? Why? Again, what's the reason? Allah ordered us to do this. And people respect that more than you trying to find, why are you fasting? Oh, we're fasting because, the digestive system gets tired after 11 months. And, this creates a nice rebooting system where, all of your muscles, and then when you eat, and then we stand up in qiyam, it's digesting the food. That's why we stand up for 20 rakats after we eat so much of the food. Huh? Bro, we fast because Allah said don't fast. If Allah didn't tell you to fast, you wouldn't be fasting right now. You'd be munching, man. Just like all other 11 months out of the year. So, again, come back. Why do we do it? We do it because Allah told us to do it. And I believe in Allah. Bam, done. Submission, why? Because Allah. And that's how Sahaba were. Sahaba, why are we doing it? Because the Rasul ﷺ told us. They didn't look hadith da'if, hadith sahih. Prophet said it, he said it. That was it. That was it. So, just to put things in context, don't try to rationalize the whole deen. Don't try to rationalize the whole deen. Now, the deen is rational at the same time. And that's why Ibn Qayyim al-Jawzi, he says anything that amounts to stupidity is not Sharia. Anything that amounts, Ibn Qayyim al-Jawzi, he says anything that amounts to stupidity is not Sharia. That's not the deen. That's not the deen. So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq, inshallah ta'ala, to be good listeners, right? And to use our aql, in its hudud, in its limit. In its limit. Allah make us good listeners. If you don't know, listen to someone who knows. Because arrogance will be the thing that stops you from Jannah. Because you didn't listen to someone. Well, Shaykh doesn't know what he's talking about. He's young, he doesn't know. That's what they said about Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Oh, he's just a boy, he doesn't know much. Young man, he doesn't know much. Oh, he didn't go to Medina, he doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm not listening to him. Just listen. Listen. If Allah make us good listeners, subhanAllah, then we get a lot. But the moment we open this up, the ears close. So becoming good listeners. Imam Ghazali said, لا تنظر إلى من قال, انظر إلى ما قال. Don't look at who's speaking, look at the words that are being spoken. Look at the words. So Allah make us good listeners, people that receive the message and follow the message and act upon it, inshallah ta'ala. Let's make dua, inshallah, before we break the fast, inshallah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma laka alhamdu ya Rabbil alameen. اللهم لا نحصي ثناء عليك أنت كما أثنيت على نفسك لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد وهو على كل شيء